Great talent wins games. Great stories win hearts. 93 minutes and 20 seconds. One swing of Sergio Agüero's right boot ended 44 years of waiting and rewrote Premier League history. But how did a boy from Villa Fiorito become the man behind 93-20? And why did the game he loved force him to stop at 33? This is the untold story of Sergio Agüero. How do you measure footballing immortality? For Sergio Agüero, it isn't just in the trophies or the goals. Though he scored more than 400 in his career, including a record-breaking 184 in the Premier League for Manchester City. It isn't even in the countless defenders he left chasing shadows. No, Agüero's immortality is sealed in one number, 93-20. The second his strike hit the net against Queen's Park Rangers in 2012, the blue half of Manchester erupted and English football was changed forever. Yet the paradox of Agüero's story is this: for all his brilliance, for all the medals and memories, his journey ended not with a farewell tour of goals, but with tears on a Barcelona stage, forced into retirement at just 33 due to a heart condition. How could the most lethal striker of his generation be silenced when it felt like he had so much more to give? This video isn't just about statistics or silverware. It's about a boy from Villa Fiorito who escaped poverty with a ball at his feet, about the battles he fought against injuries and doubters, and about the moment that turned him into a Premier League legend. Above all, it's about the cruel twist of fate that cut short one of the most electrifying careers the game has ever seen. And so the question lingers: what makes Agüero's story unforgettable? His goals, his glory, or the way it all came crashing down? Sergio Agüero's career is a battle between triumph and tragedy. On one side, the dazzling goals, the unforgettable title-winning strike, the status as Manchester City's greatest ever striker. On the other, fragile muscles, endless injuries, and a final diagnosis that forced him to walk away from the game he lived for. The stakes are clear. Agüero's story is not just about what he achieved, but what was taken from him. Every goal he scored carried the weight of a dream fulfilled, but every setback reminded him how fragile greatness can be. To understand Agüero is to see both the hero who gave joy to millions and the man who paid the price for playing at the edge of human endurance. Sergio Lionel Agüero was born on June 2, 1988 in Villa Fiorito, a rough and impoverished district on the outskirts of Buenos Aires. It is the same neighborhood that once produced Diego Maradona, and like Maradona, Agüero's life began in hardship. His father, Lionel, worked multiple jobs, while his mother, Adriana, cared for 7 children in a cramped house where electricity often failed and running water was a luxury. Football wasn't just a pastime in Villa Fiorito. It was survival, escape, and hope rolled into one. From the age of 3, Sergio's obsession with the ball was obvious. His family recalls how he would dribble around the tiny living room until furniture had to be moved aside. On dusty streets and makeshift pitches, barefoot against older boys, he learned to protect the ball with a low center of gravity and lightning-quick turns. Those early battles in the neighborhood shaped the instincts that would later terrorize Premier League defenders. There was, however, something extraordinary that set him apart. By age 9, he was already playing in youth tournaments, and his uncanny ability to read the game made him stand out even among older players. A coach from Independiente, one of Argentina's traditional giants, spotted his talent and offered him a place in the club's youth academy. It was a pivotal moment. The boy from a slum suddenly had a path to professional football. Still, Agüero carried with him the scars of Villa Fiorito, the toughness, the hunger, and the resilience born out of deprivation. These qualities would define his career just as much as his technical gifts. For every dazzling finish at the Etihad, there was first a barefoot kid chasing a battered ball across broken pavement. And so, long before the Premier League crowd sang his name, Kun Agüero was simply Sergio, the kid who dreamed of escaping poverty with nothing but his talent and unshakable will. At just 15 years and 35 days old, Sergio Agüero made history.
On July 5, 2003, he debuted for Independiente in Argentina's Primera Division, breaking the record previously set by Diego Maradona as the youngest ever to play in the league. For a teenager still in school, it was a surreal step, suddenly sharing a pitch with seasoned professionals while still too young to drive. But this wasn't a token appearance. Agüero quickly showed he belonged. His first senior goal came in 2004 against Estudiantes, a typical Kun strike, darting movement, close control, and a composed finish. Overnight, he became Independiente's crown jewel, the prodigy every scout in Europe wanted to see. By 2005, he was no longer just a promising youngster. He was carrying the weight of a club that had seen legends before him. Those who played alongside him remember a fearless boy. Teammates said he had the swagger of someone who knew he could change a match on his own. Coaches praised his vision, his ability to twist away from defenders, and his knack for goals in tight spaces. The fans, meanwhile, adored him. They saw in him both the magic of Maradona and the modern edge of a new generation. Europe's giants quickly circled. Real Madrid, Inter Milan, and Chelsea all expressed interest. But it was Atlético Madrid who moved decisively. In 2006, they paid a then club record 23 million euros for the 18-year-old, an enormous fee that underlined his potential. For Agüero, leaving Argentina wasn't easy. He was a local hero at Independiente, and still just a teenager, moving to another continent with the spotlight glaring on him. But this was the path he had dreamed of as a child in Villa Fiorito. The chance to prove himself among the best, to lift his family out of poverty, and to chase glory on the European stage. As he boarded the flight to Madrid, the boy wonder from Buenos Aires was stepping into a new chapter. The question was no longer whether he had talent, it was whether that talent could shine on football's biggest stages.
Arriving in Madrid in the summer of 2006, Sergio Agüero was greeted with skepticism as much as excitement. Atletico Madrid had gambled 23 million euros, an enormous sum for a teenager fresh from Argentina. Could this young forward handle the pressure of La Liga, a league filled with global stars like Ronaldinho, Raúl, and a young Lionel Messi? At first, Agüero struggled. The pace of European football, the physicality, and the weight of expectations felt overwhelming. But gradually, his raw instincts and street-learned toughness began to shine. His low center of gravity, razor-sharp acceleration, and unshakable composure in front of goal translated seamlessly onto Spanish soil. By the 2007-2008 season, he wasn't just adapting, he was thriving. That year, partnered with Diego Forlán, Agüero exploded. The pair became one of the most feared duos in Europe. Agüero's quickness complemented Forlán's finishing, and together they dragged Atletico back into relevance. He scored 19 goals in La Liga, terrorizing defenses with his fearless dribbling and uncanny knack for decisive strikes. Spanish media hailed him as El Kun, a nickname inspired by a childhood cartoon character he resembled, one that soon became synonymous with his identity. But it wasn't just the goals, it was the big moments. In Europe, Agüero began to showcase his flair for the spectacular, volleys, solo runs, and late winners. Fans loved his directness, his refusal to be intimidated, and his ability to create magic out of chaos. For a club long overshadowed by Real Madrid and Barcelona, Agüero was a symbol's defiance, proof that Atletico could still produce stars capable of competing with the giants. Recognition followed. In 2007, he won the FIFA Under-20 World Cup with Argentina, scoring twice in the final and earning the Golden Boot and Golden Ball. The victory, coupled with his growing influence at Atletico, confirmed that he was no longer just a promising talent, he was a global star in the making. By the end of his 5th season in Spain, Agüero had scored over 100 goals for Atletico. He delivered the Europa League title in 2010 and the UEFA Super Cup later that year, cementing his status as one of the deadliest strikers in Europe. Yet, despite his brilliance, there was an unshakable sense that he was destined for something bigger. His ambition was clear. He wanted to test himself in the Premier League against the relentless pace and physicality of English football. And when Manchester City came calling in 2011 with a record £35 million fee and the promise of building a dynasty around him, Agüero knew his time in Spain was over. He had conquered La Liga's doubts. Now it was time to carve his name into Premier League history. When Sergio Agüero landed in Manchester in the summer of 2011, few could have predicted just how profoundly he would change the club's history. Manchester City had money, ambition, and an emerging squad under Roberto Mancini, but what they lacked was a striker who could deliver titles. From the moment Agüero pulled on the sky blue shirt, it was clear he was that missing piece. His debut against Swansea set the tone. Coming off the bench, he scored twice and provided an assist in just 30 minutes. The Premier League had seen great strikers before, but Agüero announced himself with ruthless efficiency and a flair that electrified fans. Here was a forward who could turn half chances into goals, who thrived in chaos, and who carried himself with a quiet confidence rather than arrogance. The 2011-12 season would cement his legend forever. City and Manchester United were locked in a title race that came down to the final day. Against Queen's Park Rangers, City needed a win to claim their first league title in 44 years. 93 minutes and 20 seconds into the match, Agüero collected the ball inside the box, skipped past a defender, and smashed it into the net. "Agüero!" roared Martin Tyler's commentary, a sound that still sends shivers down the spine of every City fan. It wasn't just a goal, it was a moment that transformed City from dreamers into champions. That single strike could have defined an entire career, yet for Agüero, it was only the beginning. Over the next decade, he became the Premier League's most reliable assassin. He scored 20 or more goals in 5 different league campaigns, finishing as City's top scorer for 9 consecutive seasons. His style was deceptively simple. Short, stocky, and low to the ground, he thrived on sharp bursts of speed and precise finishing. He didn't need 10 chances to score, 1 was enough. Under Manuel Pellegrini and later Pep Guardiola, Agüero's game evolved. He became more than a poacher. He linked play, pressed defenders, and refined his movement to adapt to Guardiola's high-intensity system. Despite occasional injuries, he delivered whenever it mattered most, against Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, and especially Manchester United, whom he tormented with 9 career goals. His numbers were staggering. By the time he left City, Agüero had scored 260 goals in all competitions, making him the club's all-time leading scorer. In the Premier League, he became the highest-scoring foreign player with 184 goals, surpassing Thierry Henry's record. He also holds the record for the most hat-tricks in Premier League history, 12 in total. These were not just statistics, they were milestones that marked his transformation from a promising talent into one of the league's greatest ever forwards. What set Agüero apart wasn't just the goals, but the way he scored them. Thunderous volleys, delicate chips, poacher's tap-ins, he had every weapon in his arsenal. Fans adored his humility, his loyalty, and the sense that he was always playing for more than himself. In the dressing room, teammates spoke of his quiet humor and fierce competitiveness. To them, he wasn't just a superstar, he was a dependable friend and a leader by example. The peak of Agüero's City career spanned multiple title wins: 2012, 2014, 2018, 2019, and 2021. Along the way, he formed deadly partnerships with David Silva's vision, Kevin De Bruyne's passing, and Yaya Touré's power amplifying his lethal instincts. Together, they built a dynasty that turned Manchester City into the dominant force of English football. By the time Guardiola's team was rewriting records, 100 points in 2017-18, domestic troubles, and relentless dominance, Agüero was the heartbeat of the attack. Even as his body began to betray him with recurring injuries, his knack for the decisive goal never faded. Every strike felt like another brushstroke and a masterpiece that would be admired for generations. The midpoint of his City reign deserves its own rehook. For many strikers, one legendary goal is enough. For Agüero, that moment was only the foundation. He spent the next decade proving he wasn't just the author of 93-20. He was a relentless craftsman of greatness, season after season. For all his brilliance, Sergio Agüero's career was not without shadows.
Even in his peak years at Manchester City, injuries loomed like storm clouds over his legacy. Hamstring pulls, knee troubles, ankle issues. Again and again, his body betrayed him just when his form seemed unstoppable. Fans would hold their breath every time he clutched a muscle or limped off the pitch. In total, he missed more than 200 matches in his career due to injuries, an astonishing number for a player of his caliber. Pep Guardiola, who arrived in 2016, initially had doubts about Agüero's ability to adapt to his pressing system. At first, there were whispers that he might be phased out, replaced by younger, fitter forwards. But Agüero proved his worth, reshaping his game, working harder off the ball, and continuing to deliver goals in big moments. Yet, even Guardiola could not outcoach the fragility of time. By the 2020-2021 season, Agüero's appearances dwindled, his once explosive sprints reduced to brief flashes of what used to be. As City marched toward another title, the writing was on the wall. At the Etihad, a statue was waiting, but so was an inevitable goodbye. In May 2021, Agüero scored twice in his final Premier League appearance, a fitting farewell, though fans knew it was more curtain call than encore. After a decade of service, 260 goals, and 5 league titles, he announced he would leave Manchester City. The next chapter was supposed to be romantic. Barcelona came calling, promising Agüero a chance to reunite with his close friend Lionel Messi. For years, the two had dreamed of sharing a club stage, as they did for Argentina. The move to Camp Nou felt like destiny. But within weeks, the dream shattered. Messi was forced to leave Barcelona due to financial chaos, and Agüero was left stranded in a struggling side. Worse was to come. On October 30, 2021, in a match against Alaves, Agüero suddenly clutched his chest and collapsed to the turf, struggling to breathe. The world watched in shock. Initial reports spoke of dizziness, but tests revealed a far graver truth: a cardiac arrhythmia. After consultation with doctors, Agüero was told what no striker ever wants to hear, that continuing to play could put his life at risk. In December 2021, tears streaming down his face, Sergio Agüero announced his retirement at just 33 years old. For a man who had dedicated his entire existence to football, the decision was heartbreaking. He said, "My health comes first," his voice breaking. "I did everything I could." The contrast was cruel. From the ecstasy of 93.20 to the pain of an unfinished farewell, Agüero's story was now framed not just by what he achieved, but by what was taken from him.
Sergio Agüero's career may have ended sooner than anyone expected, but his legacy burns brighter than most who played far longer. At Manchester City, he is immortal, the club's all-time top scorer, the architect of 5 Premier League titles, and the man behind the single most iconic goal in English football history. 93-20 is not just a timestamp, it is a monument, carved into the identity of a club and a league. Yet his influence stretches beyond numbers and trophies. Agüero redefined what a modern striker could be: compact yet explosive, clinical yet creative, humble yet lethal. He proved that greatness does not always roar. It can whisper through a subtle run, a calm finish, or a quiet smile after breaking another record. For Argentina, his journey was bittersweet. He never lifted the World Cup, but his contributions alongside Messi shaped a golden generation, including triumph at the 2008 Olympics and Copa America campaigns where he played vital roles. To his teammates, he was more than a forward. He was a friend, a joker, a presence that lifted dressing rooms with laughter as much as with goals. And though his farewell came with tears, Agüero's story is not one of tragedy, but of impact. From Villa Fiorito's dirt pitches to the grandest stages of world football, he proved that dreams can carry you out of poverty and into immortality. For City, for Argentina, for football, Agüero will forever remain Kun, the striker who turned fleeting moments into eternal memories. Great talent wins games. Great stories win hearts. Sergio Agüero's story is one of brilliance and heartbreak, a reminder that even legends are human. If you've enjoyed this journey through his life and legacy, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Your support helps us bring more untold stories to life. And stay tuned. In our next video, we'll dive into the turbulent yet inspiring career of Carlos Tevez, Agüero's compatriot and one of football's ultimate warriors. You won't want to miss it.